One of the more important features of UCS when we originally designed it was sort of taking into account the notion that we had to account for the fact that every IT shop in the world is a little bit different. And when we have a system like UCS that integrates network, storage, and compute all under one single interface, although that can create great efficiencies from the perspective of ease of management, we also have to be really cognizant that in an IT shop, everyone does management a little bit differently. So we had to have a system to account for things like role-based access, multi-tenancy, with the notion that many of our customers will have some systems dedicated to one business unit, another set of systems dedicated to another business unit, and we need to be able to maintain confidentiality and security between the two. So to that end, UCS focuses very heavily on the idea of role-based access and introduces containers that we call organizations for multi-tenancy. To take a look at that, if you look, this is the interface to a UCS system. Within the administration tab, you'll notice that there's sections dedicated towards user management. Within the user management section is where we do things like role management. Out of the box, we took a guess at the most common roles we would see within our customer sites. So administration being one, where you have a super admin that's basically able to control everything on the system that's obviously needed. We also decided that it's likely that you're going to have one particular customer that maybe has specific needs around network administration. So we're going to give a network role the ability to create, change, and modify properties that are specific to the external network connectivity. But just as an example, not give them the ability to control things that are going to be dedicated and localized to storage configurations, service profile configurations for the identity of the servers or the physical servers themselves. As an example, though, we also give you the ability to create your own roles. So in your organization for a specific, let's call it ABC Corp. So if ABC Corp has their own role that they want to call, maybe they have combined storage and networking teams. So you have a storage and networking role. You can give that particular role all the rights that they need for the storage, for the network, but as an example, not the servers themselves. This is just an example. Once you have those roles, you can then map those roles to a specific user. In UCS, we offer the ability to have both locally authenticated users as well as remotely authenticated users. So in this scenario, I've created a user that we're going to call Finance Admin 1, and I'll talk about locales in a second. But what I've done is basically said that for Finance Administrator 1, we've given them rights just to the servers themselves within the finance organization. Similarly, I have the option to actually create remote authentication sources. So I have the ability that, as an example from an Active Directory shop, I could go out and create an LDAP provider that goes ahead and connects UCS to my Active Directory LDAP provider and authenticates the users and associates a role to a specific Active Directory group within the UCSM interface, alleviating the need to have localized users. We also have a concept in UCS that we call locales. Locales are important. If we go to, as an example, the servers tab, we can take a look. Although I have what we call a root organization, where I have most of my service profiles, I can create sub-organizations. The idea here is that in many companies, each business unit may be responsible for managing their own infrastructure. So you may have a finance IT group that's responsible for managing all the finance IT assets, and it is, in my example, also an HR group. Anytime we create an organization within an organization, so we've got an organization that we're calling finance underneath of root, we call that a locale. If we go back to the administration tab, in this example, we've said that the finance administrator only has these permissions within the finance locale. So when I go back to the servers tab, what we've basically said is those particular roles have only been granted to the finance administrator for this particular organization, which means that they don't have rights within the root organization and they don't have rights within the HR organization. However, within the finance organization, they've got full ability to do the individual rights granted within that particular role, which in this case was basically server administration.